Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. This week's briefings have been about black people controlling our dollars and wielding them for our benefit. So far, we've looked at this issue from an internal point of view. Now we'll look at it externally. I've said that San Francisco is a perfect microcosm for what's wrong with the Democrats in America, and the same goes for California. This was a photo taken 2 days before the election that had now former LA City Council member Kevin DeLeon bounced out of office. Of course, you got the mayor in attendance, Karen Bass, standing right beside him, cheesing it up. She didn't have to do that. She's the mayor of the city and was in far better standing with the public than DeLeon. She did it because she's not a mayor for black Los Angelinos. She's escaped blackness as she sees it, so this is part of her establishing that she's just fine with all of the anti-black hostile elements in the city. Of course, Kevin DeLeon is one of the racist Latino city council members in LA who was caught on recording saying all sorts of grimy stuff. Now, if this had happened in, say, New York City, and it happened on, say, Michael Bloomberg's watch, and it was a black city council member who was talking like that about Jews, do you truly believe that Michael Bloomberg would be seen anywhere with them? Certainly not standing right beside them as if everything was everything. But this is what happens when you have to try to appeal to the very racist who put people like Kevin DeLeon in office. DeLeon is from Guatemala. He's an immigrant. Apparently his mother brought him here. When he was in the California State Senate, he declared that half his family were illegal aliens. He personally introduced legislation to make California a so-called sanctuary state. DeLeon's mother was an illegal alien, and he wrote up a law that said that this crime would no longer be prosecuted or pursued in his state of California, and it passed. Then Governor Jerry Brown proudly signed it into law. And what kind of culture do they practice in Guatemala, or the rest of Latin America for that matter? What kinds of values did Kevin DeLeon's mother teach him and that he brought to the United States? Anti-black racism. That's what. Donald Trump said that these countries were sending murderers, thieves, and rapists. I think he meant to say racists. Kevin DeLeon, of course, was voted out of office in November. No surprise. I didn't even bother to comment on it at the time when it happened because of the federal elections that were going on, but also because the outcome of that election in Los Angeles was no surprise at all. It was excruciatingly obvious that the Democratic political establishment out there wanted somebody else in his chair. The white media, of course, was not cheerleading for him, nor were the donors, so they could change the headlines. He was a tool of the California political machine, but we rendered him no longer useful, so they broke him and threw him away. And they put an Asian immigrant in his place. Now, when this scandal broke, the other racist Latino LA City Council members knew that they were cooked, and they resigned in short order, along with the racist Latino labor rep who was yucking it up with them. But DeLeon, on the other hand, he thought that he could weather this storm. He figured that since he wasn't the one who made the monkey remarks like Nuri Martinez did, that apparently this gave him some wiggle room. I guess he figured that of all of the individuals who were caught on that recording, his were the least controversial comments. He was counting on the white media having a short memory, which it did, but it seems the voters out there had a longer attention span. DeLeon made the predictable false promises to try to reach out to the black community, to make amends, etc. Of course, this creep didn't even attempt to make a sincere effort to offer black voters anything, or to get black support, or to say what he would do for black Californians, much less black people in Los Angeles. Then again, neither did Yesabel Jurado, the Filipino immigrant who beat him. She didn't offer black voters anything either. DeLeon thought that he could treat this as just another PR issue, make a quick statement, do a photo op with Karen Bass, go ahead and let the heat die down, the headlines will change, and come election day, everyone will have forgotten about it. Of course, his pathetic charade didn't work, but the reason that this old news is the subject of this morning's briefing is because it illustrates something that must be changed in our community's behavior. We must have the resources to drive enemies from office, not sit back and let them fall on their own. You've heard me say that justice is far too important to be left up to chance. Well, the same goes for power. When racist scum like Kevin DeLeon and his pals are in office, it's not enough merely for them to be out of office. We need for us to be the ones who send them out so that it's clear exactly who it was who got rid of them. Otherwise, ultimately, the enemy will try to convince themselves and the public that we didn't have anything to do with their disgrace. They'll push that nonsense that, well, they were defeated by the media or something. It was all just a bunch of hype. See, Ed Blum, he knows exactly who it was who crushed his pathetic political dreams. That's why he's been using lawsuits to troll black people ever since. That moron thought that he was going to be governor one day. Instead, black people showed him the only thing he would be is a political whore for some right-wing paymaster. That's his consolation prize, and it's obvious that it eats him alive. The entire reason that scandal with DeLeon, Nuri Martinez, and the rest of them happened was because they were talking about money. City jobs, contracts, and where city resources were to be allocated. And you had those Hispanic politicians who, rather than putting their heads together with the black politicians and saying, hey, let's all form this black-brown alliance, and we're going to go ahead and make sure that all of us get what it is that we need because we all face the same challenges, etc., etc. You know, the kind of empty rhetoric that they say in front of the cameras. Instead of them doing that, instead they got behind closed doors and said, it's us against the black people. They made it very clear. They're not sitting here trying to challenge white supremacy. It's black people who they wanted to do in. This is yet another example that when black neighborhoods aren't getting resources, it's not an accident. It's deliberate. We pay taxes, and then these anti-black racists take our tax money and give it to everyone else. This is why we need reparations and why it is that even these immigrants cannot complain and say, well, we did not have anything to do with it. Oh, yes, they did. In fact, they have been neck deep in anti-black racism, just like the white supremacists have. They have been just as complicit, just as culpable, just as bigoted, and as a result, just as responsible. But when it comes to making sure that we weaponize our dollars in order to empower ourselves, we got to understand that we're not going to be getting support with the bootlicks in the state legislative black caucus out there. They put on a pathetic horse and pony show last month when they claimed that they were going to be pushing for reparations. Even the white media had to put in the headline that these were the guys who blocked it. So it's ridiculous. They actually laughed and smiled in the face of black voters after they pulled that mess. They were mocking the very black voters whose votes that they claim to want. We have the ability to organize our votes and our social force. And that has been enough to bring about huge changes, but it's not enough. Our power will not be complete until we have the money to fight the enemy with too. White supremacy wants to keep us poor as a people because we've shown we have the will to punish these racists. All we need now is the wherewithal. That's why disciplining your dollar is so important. The enemy has put together a machine that's supposed to grind us to dust, and they're using our money as the fuel for it. It's time to starve the beast and watch it atrophy and disintegrate in front of us. Anti-black racists simply will not get punished by accident. They have to be punished by design, our design. We can't rely on their incompetence or for them to stumble into a scandal and be removed by a disgusted public and a media that can no longer afford to protect them. We need to have the power to remove them ourselves, even if the rest of the non-black public loves them. If we don't like them, then we need to be able to remove them no matter what anybody else thinks. This is why it's important to not spend money with people who practice anti-black racism. They take your money and then give it to the Kevin DeLeons and the Nuri Martinezes and the Karen Basses, and those clowns use your money to get into office and plan how they're going to disenfranchise you. You don't have to go to the ends of the earth or to the far side of the moon in order to find black people who you can actually spend money with. You got plenty of them right where you are. Make it a point to do so. And don't be bashful about making sure that they're on code. A large part of reestablishing our lineage is getting people to say it out loud, not to be something that's only said or whispered in some quiet corner somewhere. You got to get it in people's faces. When we begin exhibiting appropriate behavior, you'll find that far more people are suddenly going to stop being so eager to spend money elsewhere when they see there's a group of black folks who actually think before they hand someone their money. That's the point of this week's briefings. Control your dollar, and you'll be able to control the people who get it too. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Seven Tahuti, Maurice Soul, Connie Beasley, Donald Oosley, and Keiko Intigoku. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.